I am really glad to be back with you. How are you? It's good to see you. It's good to sincerely to be seen. I've kind of been just gone, like off the radar, and that's by design. And for those of you that are joining us today, maybe checking out 514 Church, watching, hanging out with us in here. I've been on a 3-month sabbatical since January 5th is when I left. So when I left, it was Christmas, and now it's Easter. And maybe I'll only come preach twice a year from now on, John. I don't know. That sounds good to me. I want to just say, first of all, that I've had an unbelievable time, that there are no words that I could articulate to try to explain to you how profound and helpful the past 3 months were. And hopefully over literally years of teaching and continuing to shepherd this community, I will be able to impart to you some of the pieces that God did in and through me during this sabbatical. One of the things that became just so remarkably clear during the sabbatical was, again, that it's rare for people to take a sabbatical. When we announced that I was taking a sabbatical, we addressed immediately the concerns that a sabbatical might be, because something's going wrong with Joel, and it's like it's some type of euphemism, and that's never what it was. Really, what the sabbatical is about is our leadership of the church really trying to change the rhythm and the way that we live our lives, starting with our leadership, and not just in giant 3 months of rest, but genuinely moving into practices like rest that are different from the way that the rest of the world lives. So most people never take a sabbatical, and I'm here to tell you that I know that it's not realistic. I know that everybody can't, but I believe with all of my heart that for us to become the people that we're supposed to become and grow, you absolutely should. You absolutely should take a sabbatical, even if it's for a week, even if it's for a month, to get a break. And I know that that's difficult. Trust me, I've been there. I have been there where our board, leadership, and different people that I look to as a reference point have said, you need a sabbatical, you need a sabbatical, you have to do this, and thought, that's impossible, it's not practical, we can't do that. And so we made it happen, and all I can tell you is how grateful I am. I know that it's a privilege. I know that to be able to take 3 months away is an absolute privilege, and I could not be more grateful. First of all, I'm grateful to my wife, who, while I was on my sabbatical and still is running her own business, which is busting at the seams, and is pursuing her PhD, and still has to take care of all of her stuff we have 3 kids. And I can just tell you that she definitely took the brunt. She's emotionally completely on board with the sabbatical. But after about a month of her working really, really hard and me having fun and just disengaging from normal life and rhythm and burden, she got a little bit upset with me a couple times. I am sad to say she started to get upset because, when you take that much time off, for me, I started to get a little antsy, you got to wake up and do something. So I was fixing drawers, right? Not a good idea, but I just did it. And that took 3 days of glue and clamping and drilling. But it looks right. But if you opened it up, you'd be like, whoa, a craftsman did not do this. But she started to get a little bit tired of me, mansplaining everything to her. And if you don't know what mansplaining is, it's when guys try to explain stuff. Some of you will get that later. But she really, I have to say that, it's an adjustment when, I know friends who decided to, work both at home, and they work that out. You figure out how do you work both at home. And that can be a challenge, right? To have your own space to work. So we kind of were, in the same space, and I was around a lot more. And of course there's natural tensions that come with that. But genuinely, what it led to was some of the greatest conversations, conversations that you start that you really can't finish, a relationship that for her and I really grew. And it was special. And she deserves a lot of credit, man. So if you see her, she's gonna be here at 11 o'clock. Like she deserves, if you're like grateful for, me getting a rest and what God can do through that, then you should thank her. You really, really should. She took on a lot. And of course, I want to thank John and Carmen, because when you start to think about taking a break, there are so many practical reasons why you come up with you can't do it. It's not possible. But I've always believed that leaders genuinely replace themselves. And of course, when you are in the world trying to find your spot, right? I want to find my job. We want to create a sense of value, right? Because that's why we get paid. So we're trying to find our spot. It's very counterintuitive to go, now I just want to replace myself with someone else. Most people, depending on where they are on that curve, have a different response, right? You can imagine. It's like, are you trying to replace yourself or are you trying to solidify your role? And what I found is that leaders at the highest level are trying to replace themselves, that sometimes a leader's maybe impact is displayed by their absence, the ability to step away. We have, these two leaders who all I heard was they just did a great job, not only just preaching, which is a huge burden in and of itself, but continuing to run the church, continue to see the church through growth, continue to pastor and shepherd and lead our staff. And John and Carmen, they deserve a lot of your gratitude. They do. Thank you, John. I am so proud of them. I believe at this church, we don't have like a first string and a second string. I think really my goal is to just have the dream team. I don't know if you know this, but Jason Tatum was the MVP and he won a championship, but he didn't even play when they were in the Olympics. He sat on the bench. It's like a thing. It's like weird. It's like, how did he not play? Well, it just didn't fit what they needed at that time. But this church, including the people you just saw, the other communicators who communicated while I was gone, the leaders, we believe that they are all the type of people who have what it takes to take any ministry effort or task to the highest level. So please, please thank John and Carmen for leading our church while I stepped away for a little while. My sabbatical was full of rest, travel, growth, and healing, really was. Chuck Swindoll, if you know that name, if you don't, you can Wikipedia him, look him up. He said this, he said, when I asked people when they really grew spiritually, they never described an easy time, never. And so my goal during the sabbatical was, it's supposed to be restful in a way you think a bed would be easy, but I did not allow it to just be easy. I actually went on parts of it on a quest to really grow, to really push myself, to look in the mirror, to ask God to search me and to try to grow in ways and deal with problems that, of course, we all have. People say, Joel Gone, is something wrong with Joel? You can always say, well, do you know Joel? And then they say, no, well, something's always wrong with Joel. We always have problems, of course, but that's not why I took a sabbatical. But I have tons of room for growth. And so I did not allow it to just be a time of ease. I traveled, though, just for rest and pickleball. I did that. I did a special trip with each of my children individually. I went to New York with Redding. I went to Colorado with Kellen to see the Timberwolves play the Nuggets. And I went on a trip to Italy with my son, Jet, which was planned before. It was a school trip. I went to a conference, which was both professional and personal. I had a Buckeye dream come true. I went to the Cotton Bowl. I went to the Rose Bowl and had the opportunity to be very proximate to the team because of my relationship with Roy Hall. And if you pause on the scene when Jack Sawyer picks up the ball like this, you can see me and him, Roy, in the background, screaming our heads off. I screamed so hard I almost passed out. I will never, ever forget it. And of course, I had, that amazing trip. I did something that I've never done before. I journaled. I've never journaled consistently. I journaled almost every day and then created a new rhythm of reading scripture and praying. And it was the first time in my entire life, without ministry or teaching or preaching connected to my time of prayer and engaging God. Ever since I was young, it was, you're on a mission, you have a burden, you're a preacher, you have to lead, you have to help, you have to share the gospel with your friends, you have to lead. It's always been, so if you can imagine as a person that is sitting there in the scriptures, but part of being there is because I'm supposed to bring something to someone else. Right, and specifically a month ago, not even a month ago, the church was 15 years old. In 2023, I'd been in the ministry for 20 years. And so at least for 22 years, my prayer life, my devotional life has always been attached to what am I gonna share? What am I gonna teach? What are we gonna lead? What's God doing? Always. And so what I can tell you is that it was one of the most purifying things that I've ever experienced in my relationship with God. It was wonderful. And you're gonna hear more about that. Like, I actually had conversations with God that I've never had before. And he met me in ways that I had only hoped and dreamed about. I took 3 online courses. They were all 8-hour lectures with quizzes after each lecture. And I continued to make progress in therapy and counseling. That's not something that was a result of a sabbatical. I believe in the simple process of sharing my life with someone who can help me think through what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And genuinely, and this might be something that you think, well, you need to say this if you stand up and report on a sabbatical to your church, but I had a very real answer to prayer, which lifted a burden I've been carrying for years. There's been an internal pain that I've carried for a very long time. And I had prayed for God to take that away. And I had told my counselor 2 weeks before I went to this conference. And at the conference, God, in one of the most remarkable landmark moments of my life, he healed me to my surprise. I had no idea. I couldn't see it coming. And God did something in my heart that was one of the most pure, wonderful, refreshing experiences and relational, intimate connection with God I've ever had. And I can say without a doubt, and maybe you don't know if you can say this, and I can't say that it's all the time. I believe God speaks through his word. I believe the Holy Spirit is whispering to me all the time. But even in the scriptures, we see like moments where God is speaking and a moment where God speaks. And I can tell you that I've probably had at least 2, maybe 3 times where God has spoken to me, and this is one of those times. And I am different because of it. And that's how I know. It was unbelievable. I spent some time working through professional development with Rich Halcomb, who's on our board. He's a leadership director. He oversees a lot of large corporations in leadership development, and he took me through a methodical process. And all of this shaped me in ways that I couldn't fathom and will mark me and my ministry in perpetuity. Like, it's just it really has changed me. And I'm certain you'll hear it from me and experience from me as, we kind of journey together. And I continue to have the genuine privilege of leading and speaking to you. And I do want to say that I have missed being with all of you. I really have. For the first month, I was fine not to see you. That was fine. And I was honest about it. I was like, I don't need to see them. And I told God that. And then I let it happen. Like I let you into my heart again. And I'm really grateful for all of you. And I'm happy to be here today. And I told you about this trip that I took with Jet to Italy. This was a school trip. There was 9 students and about 10 or 11 adults and some teachers. And so Jet and I went to Italy. There's St. Peter's Cathedral in the background. Yeah, we went. We were hiking all over the place. We had the opportunity, of course, to go to all the places that you go. We went and made mozzarella cheese at a buffalo mozzarella farm. We went and we toured Naples. We toured Pompeii. We went to Rome, and of course, you go through all the different pieces, the Pantheon. We made homemade noodles. I learned how to make noodles. I'm gonna cook noodles for the staff. I know how to do that now. I made pizza margherita at the place where pizza margherita was invented. I learned how and why it was invented the way it was. All types of things. Went to Venice. It was absolutely an incredible time, and Jet and I had an amazing time together. But one day, I wanted to tell a story and share why we're here today and what God is doing right now in this moment in the church. One of the days, of course, you're supposed to go to the Colosseum. You know, you don't go to Rome without touring the Colosseum. And the Colosseum is remarkable. It's huge. You know, it's partially torn down because for hundreds of years after Rome fell, people would just take all the marble. So really you're just seeing like the inside, like the poured part or whatever of the structure, because all the marble and all the bronze and all the beautiful stuff was torn down and used for weapons. And you know, you learn amazing things when you go on trips like this, like it's called the Colosseum. You think, what does that mean? Well, there used to be a statue like 30 feet tall of bronze of the god Colossus. And then when Rome fell, people tore that down and melted it and turned it into weapons, but they still call it the Colosseum. And so we were supposed to go to the Colosseum, and we had 2 hours before we were gonna go. And there's a church literally 10 minutes away from the Colosseum in downtown Rome called the Church of St. Peter in Chains, the Basilica of St. Peter in Chains. It's not St. Peter's Cathedral. It's a little church. And in this church, there's this statue called the Moses, which is like my favorite statue. And it wasn't on our tour, so I said, hey, I'm definitely taking Jet to go see the Moses. Does anybody want to come? So a little group came with me, and we walked to this church, found out that when we got there, it wasn't gonna be open until 3. So then we stopped and had lunch. I had salmon, and it was like a salad, and it had like this cheese and this sauce on it, and it tasted amazing. And then we went back to the Colosseum, and then, you know, we started walking and touring the Colosseum. And while we were in the Colosseum, I started to feel something Colossus taking place down in my bowels. And we were with hundreds of people walking up certain flights of stairs, already tired from walking, and I was exercising different muscles. And and there's me, you can see it, you know, if you know me, that's a look on my face of, I'm trying to have a good time here, but this hurts. That's what that picture represents, me being like in pain, trying to capture these moments with Jet. Now, I had been to the Colosseum before, but I was in the kind of pain. And then, of course, after the Colosseum, you know, we just go right into the Forum. No bathroom, right? 35-minute wait just to go into the Forum. And I'm standing there, and I'm just starting to like shake. I'm in so much pain. It was one of those things that like I'm 44. If this was when I was 23, I wouldn't have been able to hold on. But you know, you practice over time, breathing and how to like manage it. You learn how to deal with it. You're like, I know you can't move a lot. I remember when one time I'd taken the dogs out and I had to run 100 yards to a bathroom, and I ran, and that was a mistake. You know, you can't run. Right? You can't run. So you're just kind of like breathing. And then if you start talking to people, you have moments of pause, but like, then it comes back and people are like, dude, are you okay? And I'm just like, it's just hot. You know, it's a lot of people here, you know? So then we go into the Forum, and then, you know, the Forum is like just a bunch of ruins, right? And you have to go like halfway through it to get to the actual spot where there was a bathroom. And so when it was time to go to the bathroom, you know, I think I was the only one that had to go. Of course, they're the worst bathrooms in the world. I mean, Italy's amazing, but the bathrooms are horrible. There's no seats. Everyone uses the same one. It's bad. So I go in there, and I went into the Forum, and you know, that's where the ruins are. So I went in there, and so I started to, you know, it felt a little bit better, right? I started to feel a little bit better, and then you know, the tour's over. We didn't get to see the Moses, so we're gonna split from the group to go see the Moses and maybe take an Uber to meet the team. So I'm like, Jet, let's go. We gotta go see him. Now I felt better for like 5 minutes. Now again, I'm thinking, oh, round 2. And so I take Jet to see the Moses, and it's an amazing church. It's called the Basilica of St. Peter in Chains because they believe they had the chains of St. Peter when he was imprisoned in Rome. And then, of course, Michelangelo's, one of his most famous, his most lifelike statue is in that church, the Moses. Now, that's me going, Moses supposes his toes are roses. Sweet Moses, smell the roses. Like, I'm dying right here. I'm dying. You know, I got to take a picture, but this is me. Look, I'm just kind of like wide-eyed. I mean, I literally tell people about the Moses since I went and saw him for the first time in 2005. He's like my favorite thing. I mean, I know all these stories about him, and I couldn't even look at him. You know, I mean, like my head started spinning. And so then we get done. I'm like, Jet, we need to just go. We just need to go. It's like, ruin a moment. We just need to go. And really what I was thinking is, I need to go. We need to go. And so we get out and we find that the team is like, you know, they're just walking to the bus, but they are a mile away from us. And I'm thinking, I don't really want to get an Uber in Rome. So I thought, why don't we try to catch up with them? And Jeb was like, yeah, let's run. So I have a backpack on, it's full, and I'm feeling, you know, colossal, and we start running through Rome. We are running, and I can't even tell you. Now, Jet, he's just kind of like, just like moving along, like just bouncing in front of me, and I got the backpack on, so the backpack makes you go up and down even more. And I'm a sweater. If you've been here before, like you're probably wondering why you're wearing that sweater today. You're such a sweater. I just am starting to run, and I'm just absolutely dying. We're catching up to the team. I'm going up a hill now. So now I'm actually like getting a cardiovascular exercise. Like it's painful, and like I'm having to breathe heavy, and I have to go to the bathroom, and I'm in Rome. So we meet up with the team. We catch up with them 200 feet before we get to the bus. We show up, and Jet looks like he just woke up, like he's fine. He's just good, and I am drenched. And all I do is hear from people like, man, that Jet, he's in shape, dude. People pat me on the back. It's tough being 45, isn't it, buddy? It starts to catch up with you. You know, they're going, yeah, you sweat a lot. You sweat a lot, man. Like what is the deal? And I'm sitting there, and I'm not gonna explain to them what's actually going on. I have this whole other world going on. I sweat anyway, and it was 10 times worse than it normally is. I was in so much pain, and I was drenched, and I heard from people all night how out of shape I looked. I mean, it was unbelievable. Never could tell anybody. I'm texting Katie, you will not believe what just happened to me. Like this is, I don't know if you guys know this, but I work out, okay? Like, if I work out, I'll try to stay in shape. Not that kind. So of course, I'm going through this pain and this problem. No one even knows what's going on. I'm drenched with sweat. And then of course, Jet just decided that night, I'm literally in my hotel room, and Jet just decides like, I'm gonna go get more of a workout. And I take a picture. This is literally him running. He's like rubbing it in my face. He's like, yeah, I went and did a couple more miles. Okay, buddy. Wait till you're 45 and have to go to the bathroom. And this is it's like a silly thing. And I don't have like an extensive, huge message for us today. Today's Palm Sunday. And this is the day that Jesus makes his entry into Jerusalem for what some people thought was to set up his kingdom, but what he knew was different. And what you find is in life, even if someone is smiling, even if someone is sweating, even if someone is crying, that people are often dealing with pain that you don't know about. You've heard different derivatives of this, right? Like people are going through stuff. You have to be sensitive, right? There's quotes that, kind of float around this idea that be careful, right? Because people are going through something. People are going through a pain you don't know about. And so it's one of the reasons to, potentially just be more kind. People are struggling, and you don't even know that they're struggling, and you don't even know why. The Palm Sunday story is really a remarkable one. It's multifaceted. And in Luke 19, there's a nice picture that Luke paints of this moment of Jesus riding a colt into the city. It says this, and you can read this along. I'll read it out. It'll be on the screen. Luke 19:33, it says, "And as they were untying the colt, its owner said to them, 'Why are you untying the colt?' And they said, 'The Lord has need of it.'" There's a great story leading up to this. You can go read that. And they brought it to Jesus, and throwing their cloaks on the colt, they sat Jesus on it. And as he rode along, they spread their cloaks on the road. As he was drawing near to the city, already on the way down to the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest." And some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." He answered, "I tell you, if they were silent, the very stones would cry out." And when he drew near and saw the city, he wept over it. Would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes. For the days will come upon you when your enemies will set up a barricade around you and surround you and hem you in on every side and tear you down to the ground, you and your children within you. And they will not leave a stone upon another in you, because you did not know the time of your visitation. Jesus is being celebrated because he's been doing public ministry as a rabbi for 3 years. He's done these remarkable things. If you read through the gospel accounts, you know that there are these times when he heals someone, he says, "Don't go tell anybody, just go show yourself to the priest, don't go tell anybody." Part of him not telling everybody is he understood what was going to happen. This whole thing, you can't hide this thing. It's just gonna uncork. So if you go tell everybody, it's just gonna get too big, and not just too big, maybe too fast, you know? He was gonna go into Jerusalem always on the week of the Passover. Like there was a timing for it, right? So he had a timing. And so if you go tell everybody and this whole thing gets wild too fast, then that's not the way it's supposed to move. On the Passover week, Jesus makes his way in there. And everybody is looking for a literal earthly king. They're looking for someone to move into their space. These Jewish people are oppressed by the Romans, and they are ready for someone to come and destroy them, literally, to beat them away from them, to give them their life back, to give them their city back. And they have this idea from their history that God would send a representative of Israel to move into this space, the Messiah, the Christ, someone anointed as a king like David, to come in and be their king. And so they are ready for battle. They're praising God. I mean, this is like the Super Bowl parade before the Super Bowl. And you can imagine how wonderful that might feel if you're the one that is being celebrated. And you think, you know, this is great. These people believe in me. They've seen what I can do. You would think that that'd be a great moment. Of course, Jesus, he is being praised. They're saying Hosanna, which means save us. Thank you. We love you. You're God. You know, they're laying their cloaks down. They're using palm branches because that's a traditional celebration of a king. And Jesus gets to the point where he can see the city. And he has this response. He breaks down and he starts crying. He starts weeping, and he looks at them and looks at the city, and he's in a different place than everybody else. They're all thinking he's gonna go in and save it, and then he has this prayer or this cry that represents the opposite of that happening. In fact, something has happened so that everything you hope that I would be is not gonna be what you want it to be, because not because of me, but because of you. They didn't understand who Jesus was. They had missed throughout the years what it meant to be the nation of Israel, holy, unique, set apart. They had sinned against God. And because of that, he was not going to be able to go and relieve the city from their problems the way that they wanted to. He was going to have to do it a different way. He's going to go have to defeat the thing that defeated them, sin and death. They think it's the Romans. They think it's the Greeks. And God knows that's not the beginning of your problem. The beginning of your problem is at a heart level, and it's sin. And so he's broken because he sees them. I want to ask you a question. What moves you? You know, like what makes you emotional, right? Like think about this for a moment. Like really what makes you cry? Maybe you're with your spouse and you're thinking about what makes them cry. Maybe you think they should stop crying. Maybe you think why don't you ever cry? Maybe he doesn't cry enough. But then there's like moments where you cry. Like I'm a little bit of a crier in the sense that I probably cry a little more than the average Joel. Sorry. You know, like at a sappy commercial, like at the right moment, end of the day, if I'm tired, good commercial. Just a little bit of. Yesterday, Katie was watching this movie I think it's called The Life List, where, this woman, her mom dies and she leaves her inheritance, but she can't get the inheritance until she goes through this list of things. And the mom sends her all these videos, when she's gone, and then the daughter has to sit there. I come in the last 10 minutes, Katie's just sitting there with the dogs, really glad that I'm not there. And then I get there, and then the movie has these great moments at the end, and I'm sitting there, and she looks over and goes, "You're crying?" Like I had seen 10 minutes of the movie. No, I'm not ugly crying, I'm just tearing up. I'm just like, that's awesome. And things move me, And of course, things move her. There are certain movies that move her and a lot that wouldn't. And people cry for different reasons. But usually, the reason is associated with some type of pain, right? So if you start to look at rhythms and things that kind of connect the dots of what makes you emotional, usually our problems or our pains or something connected to them is what makes us emotional, because really it's like a wound, right? Trauma is a hot word right now. It's like a Latin word or Greek word for wound. You have a wound, and if you have a wound and someone presses on your wound, you respond. It's like, ah. So usually when we cry, there's something going on in you, a pain that hurts you. And so sometimes people will be crying and you're like, why are they crying? And then you might learn later something about their life and go, wow, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why that made them so emotional. But usually it's connected to something going on. Here's what's fascinating about Jesus and about why it's so important that we focus our hearts and minds on him today and worship him alone is that we'll all cry for different reasons, but the reason that Jesus is crying is because of your pain, not his. It's because of your problems and my problems, not his. He's not crying yet because of the crucifixion. He has a moment where he actually cries because he's so afraid of the pain, and he's human, God in the flesh. But before that, he's crying because of the problems that we all have. He's so moved by the stuff that's hurting us that it hurts him and he cries. A little bit like a parent, right? Where you see your kid go in the wrong direction, picking the wrong thing, going the wrong way, wrong friends, whatever it is, and they don't see the trajectory that they're on. And it hurts you as a parent because you have wisdom. Well, here's the God of all knowledge and love, and he sees a group of people who are just like sheep going astray and hurting themselves along the way. And God looks at that. Jesus looks at that, and he's broken by it. Now, Jesus, I'm sure, the book of John tells us that Jesus, did so many things you could never write them down, right? So the authors of these texts decided to show us things, and there's two major times where Jesus cries, right? The one is what just happened before Palm Sunday, is he goes to Bethany, and that's where he raises Lazarus from the dead, right? And that's one of the reasons why people are so sparked when he goes into the city. Bethany's right outside of Jerusalem. So he's working his way down back for Passover, stops in Bethany. He knows people, his close disciples live there. That's where Lazarus is raised from the dead. And if you remember the Lazarus story, he goes late after Lazarus is dead. The people believe he could have saved him if he was there on time before. He could have saved him. And so Jesus gets there and he says, the glory of God is going to be shown. This is why I'm here. He knows why he's there. And he says, I'm the resurrection and the life. And then I think Mary says to him, well, I know the resurrection is going to happen later, but what about now? He's dead. And then it says that all these people are weeping over Lazarus and that he's gone. And then it says that Jesus wept. Why is Jesus weeping? He's not weeping because of Lazarus being dead. He's weeping because they're weeping. He's hurting because they're hurting. He sees someone fall on the ground, broken, and Jesus is broken by what's breaking them. That's one of the things that I think makes Jesus worth worshiping is he's heartbroken because of our broken hearts. Like he sees us have relational fallout. He sees us have, problems with maybe a relationship with ourselves or a substance or a pattern or, in your family group. And he sees those moments when those systems break down. And he sees us broken. And he watches the fracture of us and it makes him cry. It makes him care. And so, everybody has a reason why they're crying and usually it's connected to their pain. This is connected to our pain. It's like someone cares more about us than we care about ourselves. And then of course it's Jerusalem. He cries when the people are, sad about Lazarus, and then he cries because of Jerusalem. And here's the other piece. So his heart is broken because of our broken hearts, and then his heart gets broken over what could have been and what will be. One of the things that breaks God's heart is he knows he's looking at Jerusalem and he's going, man, you were supposed to be like the city on a hill. You were supposed to be holy, set apart, live differently, be kind of a model, really is the idea. You were supposed to be a model of humanity for all the other groups of people to model after. You were supposed to be the ones who, are kind of royal and connected to the God who made everyone. And the nations were supposed to flood into you to not just worship the living God. Yes, worship the living God, but learn how to live life. Learn how to do things. Learn how to be human to the full extent, which includes Yahweh. You can't do it without him. And he knows that they didn't get to experience that. So there they are in oppression. The same road that Jesus rode the colt down to go into Jerusalem is the same road that at times Rome would crucify thousands of people just to say, don't mess with us. He's heartbroken over what has happened. And then he's talking about, eventually Jerusalem gets kind of taken over 70 AD, and just destroyed. And then the temple gets destroyed. And a lot of authors think that's what he's referring to here. It's you guys are you think that I'm coming to defeat Rome, man, you're gonna be it's gonna get worse. And for those who aren't in relationship with God, for those who aren't his son, his daughter, for those that don't follow him and allow him to be the model for how we live our lives, the unfortunate news is that it's gonna get worse. And that breaks his heart. He's crushed because our hearts are crushed and because our lives lead to pain. So one of the themes you're gonna hear from me is that if you aren't acutely aware of your brokenness, you creep towards minimizing your need for God. You just don't think you need him. If you don't know you need him, you don't know you're broken, then you don't go to God and get what you need. And it's really difficult, isn't it, to watch people who you care about completely unaware of their shortfalls. It's really hard in their pain. It's there's people I watch, they're going down the wrong road. They're not doing, that's not good. That they're missing this and it's gonna cause more problems. Or someone that's in a problem and you watch them and you go, oh man, if you would just deal with it. And it gets worse when they're stubborn. When you feel any kind of pain, Jesus is the kind of person that loves you so much and knows you so well that he would sit with you while you're crying and gently and genuinely cry with you. And Good Friday and Easter are about the disparity of God's good creation and the brokenness that's now in it. The reason for Jesus' entry into the city is because we're broken, because our hearts are broken, our lives are broken, we have tremendous sin, and we need God to do something that only he can do in the inward place. When I was in Rome at St. Peter's Basilica, they're celebrating Jubilee. And that is like the Jubilee that we read about in the Old Testament, except it's just every 25 years. And it's a time to come. All Catholics from all over the world go to Rome, or they're invited to go through a door that's right next to the main door, but they only open it every 25 years. And they go in there. The reason that they're invited in there is to just go and ask for forgiveness. To go into a place that is beautiful, made with, human hands, nonetheless as beautiful as it gets as an environment. It's a garden. It's a heaven on earth inside there. To go inside of that and be reminded, right? I fall short of the glory of God. I need God. I need him to forgive me. And so this is the call, right? God, I'm broken. God, I need you. God, thank you for Good Friday. Thank you for Easter. Thank you for meeting my sin. Thank you for letting sin, jump from me onto you so that you could crucify it and then give me the Spirit of the living God so that I can overcome the problems that I have. But you never get there if you don't understand the brokenness that makes Jesus weep on this day. It's ours. It's ours. We're called to ask for forgiveness not just because it's good for us, but because we need it. And this time of year, God's good creation should be set before us in a way that we recognize how broken it is and how Jesus' resurrection is the beginning of new creation. Right now, the beginning of new creation. Genesis part 2. All that happens because you move into his space and ask him to help you, to heal you, to forgive you. That's why he's weeping. And that's why he dies. And that's why he resurrects. Our brokenness. It can be about a lot of things, like Easter, Good Friday. It can be about a lot of things. Like it can take us captive. It can be about family. It can be about someone else's problem, whatever. But if you miss that this Jesus we worship wept over the city because of our brokenness and the brokenness that we experience all the time, and we don't go to God and agree upon that specifically, then we miss out on the purpose of this time. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity, right, to pray and to, come and ask God for forgiveness. It's one of the things we should probably do all the time so that we're just aware of it. And so today we're going to have a time of prayer afterwards. You can stay in here and you can just sit, or you can come forward. There's a prayer team as we do. And I also want to invite you to come back this week. We're going to have 2 hours of prayer every night except for Friday night, Monday through Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m. in this building. Just come to the building and we'll tell you where to go. And it's a time of prayer. It's a time of confession. It's a time of meeting with God. It's a time of agreeing with God. It's a time of letting what broke God's heart break your heart. And that's where celebration comes from. Sometimes you might see the joy of Easter and wonder why everybody's so slap happy. Well, it's the people that were very aware of how broken things were, how dire it was, how in need they were, how dead they were, how helpless they were, how lost they were, how broken they were, and how very real that is, that found Jesus to bridge the gap, that celebrate his resurrection. Those are the ones who do it. And then you go, well, that's why they're excited. And every one of us is invited to that moment of thanking God for what he's done. So we have prayer this whole week, and we have prayer right now. And then next week for Easter, we'll have a 6 o'clock service on Saturday, 6 p.m., and then 9 and 11 again on Sunday, Easter Sunday. So I'm gonna invite you to stand, and right now, go ahead and we'll pray. And then, of course, if you need to go, you can make your way out into the hallway and do whatever you need to do, or if you'd like to stay. But just honor those who decide to stay and pray, and take this moment to move towards God here and make the most of it. Bring something to him. Bring something that you need help with. Ask him to forgive it. And if you can't think of anything, that's a scary place to be. Ask God to reveal to you. God, will you reveal to me like what is in me that is not of you and not good, and that I need forgiveness? Search me, God. See and show me the wicked ways. So when I say amen, we'll be dismissed, and you can stay in prayer. Those of you can go that need to. Father, we come before you because we've been given access to you through Jesus. We have within us the Spirit of the living God, within this room, within this church, your gathering. The Holy Spirit of God is here right now. You're with us. We don't have to sacrifice an animal to talk to you or to ask for forgiveness. It's all been done. It's offered. We can run in to you in relationship, just address you by name and ask for help, and you give it. And Father, please, this morning as we come to you and think about what made you weep, if it was us, then show us the parts of us that caused you that kind of pain. And allow what you did to get rid of it to do what it's supposed to start to do in our lives. We love you and we thank you. We look forward to what you're gonna do in our hearts and minds and in this body, and to the celebration of your victory over all our sin and all of death. We love you in Jesus' name.